Welcome to Category Visionaries, the show dedicated to exploring exciting visions for the future from the founders who are on the front lines building it. In each episode, we'll speak with a visionary founder who's building a new category or reimagining an existing one. We'll learn about the problem they solve, how their technology works, and unpack their vision for the future. I'm your host, Brett Stapper, CEO of Frontlines Media. Now let's dive right into today's episode. Hey everyone, and thanks for listening. Today I'm speaking with Etrit Demaj, co-founder of KODE Labs, a real estate IoT platform that's raised $38 million in funding. Etrit, how are you?
Good, Brett. How you doing?
I'm doing super good, and I'm super excited for our conversation. So we were talking in the pre-interview there about your journey coming to the United States as a refugee. Those are, of course, always incredibly inspiring stories to hear. So I'd love to start there. Talk to us about that flight. You were 10 years old, as I understand it. Talk to us about your flight to America.
Yeah. So I think from my side, like I was telling you earlier, and I'll get to the whole journey there, but we're so blessed to be in the best country in the world. Now, come from Kosovo is, for those that don't know, because it's been a while now, there was a war there, and, the United States and NATO actually were a huge reason for positive outlook and positive outcomes in a really bad place. My family and I were lucky to be able to make it out of the country during the war. And then as we made it out of the country, the United States had a refugee program that we signed up for. My dad was already traveling between US and Kosovo from his past to do some work here and there. Then as we got that letter of approval to be able to come live in the United States as refugees, I think I'll never forget that moment. I was 10 years old, but it was one of the best feelings ever, coming out of a place where you thought you were going to die, right? And always, in a way, hoping and praying that the United States gets involved to save us. And then to be able to come and live here is just unbelievable. And I can just tell you a quick story. As we were literally flying through, our first stop was New York City to come into Detroit, Michigan. And then that stop that we had in New York City, I remember so vividly, the Empire State Building, as we were kind of, dropping down, you can see it. And now, why we love America so much. Now, Empire State Building is using our platform today. So I like to say it like this, but I really do believe that, really only in America you can see something and kind of dream about it in a way and then be able to make it a reality if you just work hard.
Yeah, that's one of the things I love about America. And I think people seem to forget that sometimes, that there are amazing stories like yours and so many others. So it always makes me appreciate America more when I do have the chance to speak with amazing founders like you. So appreciate you sharing the story. I will say you're our second founder we've had on now from Kosovo. We had on someone from Tive. Do you know Tive? It's like a supply chain visibility platform.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, like Tive, they have an office down the street from us in Kosovo. So it's another amazing company with an amazing founder.
That's amazing. Now, take us back to 2017 and the founding of the company. What were those early conversations like for you? And what was it about this company, this problem that made you say, yep, that's it. I'm going to go spend the next 10 plus years of my life building?
Yeah, so I was in this space before. We were trying to do smart buildings with many different platforms and third-party solutions and combining them together. And it was always really expensive, and it was really mostly building by building. There wasn't anything out there that you could truly scale, like you would scale a Salesforce or scale an accounting platform for a whole corporation or even for real estate. So as we got into code, the biggest reason and why we really wanted to start doing this was that we felt that there was nothing in the industry that was cost effective enough and scalable enough to be innovative, where you can take data from buildings and then these servers inside the buildings, bring them to the cloud, and then be able to reuse a lot of that logic in those use cases, deploy into other buildings that are the same. And as you do different kind of profiles, you just keep building an enterprise and a solution that makes it much easier for these end users to be able to have a true standard like they would have with their other software. So those early stages were very interesting for me, especially because we didn't raise around until 2022. So some of the early days, we were just kind of thinking about how to get our core group of founders together and what were we going to put in? How much do we really believe in this idea? Because, everybody in the industry was thinking that cloud-based operating systems and like cloud supervisors that we're looking to do for buildings were not safe. They're not cyber secure through the cloud. Everything should be on-prem. That's the only place where you'll be able to control or change something, not through the cloud, because everybody just thought that that would be problematic, right? But we've got some people to believe in the idea. We started pitching the idea to some possible clients, and actually some of them are real innovators, so they liked it. And I think that was started to make us believe that we really should start building something. But how we started building it, from my perspective, was I think one of the most important things that we're really, really proud of, to be honest, and how we got to being cash flow positive in the first year. And then from there, really growing, staying obviously like really zoned in on the product, but from day one, having that client centric core was something that I think has differentiated us to date and has helped us go really far.
So that's a long time to go without raising any outside capital. Was that the plan all along? Were you planning to just have this be a bootstrap business and then at some point you decided to raise capital, or what changed there?
Yeah, so for our industry at that time, I think it was not as easy to raise capital for our idea because our idea was considered a little bit outside of the realm. The ideas that we're raising were, hey, I got this module or this application that's going to give you some read-only analytics, or I got this tool that's going to go faster because it's a smaller tool, more simple, and it's going to scale, right? We wanted to build an actual operating system. So we wanted to build something that was not really available. We wanted to do it. And then we wanted to do it in a way where other industries have been successful already. So I think why we didn't raise was that we really believed in the idea. And we believed that we can also use our own money between some of our core founders to start. And then with time, we just knew that it was cloud-based operating systems were going to become the norm for the industry.
This show is brought to you by Frontlines Media, a podcast production studio that helps B2B founders launch, manage, and grow their own podcast. Now, if you're a founder, you may be thinking, I don't have time to host a podcast. I've got a company to build. Well, that's exactly what we built our service to do. You show up and host, and we handle literally everything else. To set up a call to discuss launching your own podcast, visit frontlines.io/podcast. Now, back to today's episode. How long did it take, or at what stage did you land the Empire State Building, and what was that process like?
Yeah, so actually, we landed the Empire State Building last year. And that process was very interesting because we were just like any big enterprise client, right? You have to find these buyers at the time you are either looking to buy or make it enticing enough, or it's an important piece for their strategy and what they're looking to do, right? With the ESRT and Empire State Building, that's just an amazing company, like really well ran, leadership from top to bottom, really. And they have some goals where, they want to be a leader in the industry and they want to make sure that the Empire State Building is always not just the most visited building in the United States, but a building that you can look at for their ESG initiative, net zero, and obviously as a smart building altogether. So how we landed that was we did what we always do. Going into last year, we started becoming more and more of a real player in the industry. And, the Dana and her team over there, Dana Schneider, as soon as they obviously saw a demo and a presentation with a little time, they were bought in because they could see what the platform can do for their goals. And obviously they've done the same thing for us too, because they give us a lot of feedback, just like a lot of other clients, and we continue to build on that.
And what was the early go-to-market strategy like, and how have you seen the go-to-market evolve?
Yeah, so I can tell you the beginning stages, we just wanted to get a couple clients to buy in, right? We have a company here called Bedrock Detroit, right out of downtown Detroit. Now we pitched them with this idea and we said, look, if you believe in us to have something ready for you, let's say within 6 months, after we started hearing more and more about what their needs are too, and we had known a little bit about what their needs are from before, we can start to give you something that you're obviously looking to do for the next 10 years too. And then we can start to give you value like really quickly. If that value is not good enough, then we would just turn you around into what you're using today and make sure that you have everything that you need that we said we were going to do at 40% discount than what you're paying today, right? So those early stages were, I think the go-to-market strategy was a little bit blurry, right? Because as much as we believed and dreamt where, we can be where we wanted to continue to keep going, it was really hard to see that at the time, right? Because we were just trying to make sure that we were defining, speaking with the right client and ensuring that we're really staying in touch with them and they're liking what we're doing every 2 weeks, every 6 weeks, and trying to keep them up to date as much as possible so they can really be part of the company, right? It's not just another software that maybe I may try out, but it's more like it's a solution that I'm helping bring to this industry and a solution that is different and is it kind of creating its own category. So that allowed us to pick up the right clients that we wanted to pick up, that were engaged and also gave us the right feedback. And as we implemented in those, in our, let's say, first 50 buildings, I think that's when we started to understand, what the go-to market strategy would be like. So at the beginning, it was start local, then get out and be a little bit more regional. And then once we really productized by the end of 2020, our goal was to hit the ground running, get in front of as many large companies as possible. And as soon as we started getting in front of these companies, they started to see a difference, right? And we got nothing but great reviews. And where we got the feedback, we worked on it very quickly. And then that allowed us to go national. And what I mean by going national in our industry, now you could do things regionally, but really now starting to deploy nationally as a startup and a platform like ours and being successful was something that we wanted to just make sure we do right. And then obviously the go-to market has evolved so much throughout that time now, and it's much different, but it has always been, you can think about the next 10 years, 20 years, but you really got to knock out your short-term goals and ensure that you're meeting whatever big goals you have that will allow you to really think bigger and become a bigger company.
Now, you mentioned there one of my favorite words, which is category. Just to clarify there, what is the category? How do you describe the category that you are creating and that you're in?
Yeah, so in our industry, some of the larger corporations that you have that are, they're considered like the big four. They're the big hardware providers that also develop software because they needed to connect to their own hardware, right? So the category now, I would call it, is really the smart building category. And then from our perspective, why we are helping redefine this whole category is that we are taking what generally used to be done on-prem inside buildings to the cloud, and then going further with the meaning of what a real smart building platform should be. That category and the competitors and partners that we have in this space, it's one of the categories that everyone sees huge opportunity in, but no one has been truly able to break mass deployments for one corporation, for example, right? Everybody can do one or two or three buildings, but no one has had the software and technology to really deploy globally for somebody, right? And why we are differentiating more and more now is that we can do that, and we've worked towards developing for that and building out the right team to be able to be as scalable as possible and as cost effective as possible.
This show is brought to you by the Global Talent Co., a marketing leader's best friend in these times of budget cuts and efficient growth. We help marketing leaders find, hire, vet, and manage amazing marketing talent for 50 to 70% less than their US and European counterparts. To book a free consultation, visit globaltalent.co.
From a go-to-market perspective, what do you think was the most important decision you've made to date? And talk us through making that decision.
That's a great question. I think there's a lot of decisions throughout the last 4 years that I would consider probably some of the most important decisions that we've ever made. No, those the I would say that initial decision, which was not easy to make, but as we started to grow with national and global companies, we quickly realized that we're not going to be able to cover local grounds all over the world, right? And buildings are still buildings. So, we started to put together our channel partner program where these channel partners are profiles like system integrators, controls companies, or like master system integrators that are already installing and deploying different solutions. And we started going after them and signing them up as co-channel partners. And then through time, we developed a certification program where we train them, certify them. And then, fast forward to today, a lot of our channel partners can do their own implementations. They can build on top of code. They can use code without the need of being, let's say, programmers or software developers. So that was, I think, a huge part of really shaping our go-to-market strategy and being able to cover more states, more countries, and more continents. I would definitely say that if I could pick one, not having just a direct line, but building out the right channel partner program and the channel partner strategy has been huge for us for so many reasons.
Let's talk a little bit about your fundraising journey. As I mentioned there, you've raised 38 million so far. You'd also mentioned there at the start that a few years ago, fundraising was a bit hard in this space. How have you seen those conversations evolve? Are you seeing a lot more interest from investors to back spaces like this and industries like this?
Yeah, so fundraising was hard for us at the time. We just considered it hard because we didn't want to change our stance, right? Like we were willing to go all in for this, and we knew that it was going to be big, and we still know that it's going to be bigger and bigger and bigger with all of the goals and the local laws and the national laws, and everybody trying to meet and get to net zero. So I think from our perspective, we have raised in the past. We just wanted to make sure that we built something. Even so, when we go out for a raise, we know exactly why we're going out for the raise and have less surprises when, again, still at the Series A level, you don't have everything figured out. So I just want to be clear there. But us being able to bring revenue in, being cash flow positive, at times that kind of confusing for investors. And it was a little bit confusing for investors 2 years ago because they were so used to investing in companies that were still losing money, right? But we were able to show some really good growth and we were able to show that we can actually manage money, right? So I think we got very lucky with our initial investors that we brought on board, led by I Squared, a few others. And then that round that we raised kind of helped the company become even more goal oriented because now we had investors, not just clients, not just partners. We really feel like we have to do right by everybody. And we have to work really, really hard to do that. So that first $8 million raise, I think, has been what was huge for us. It helped us continue to put in more than 12 hours a day sometimes to drive and then to really prove that we are who we said we were on that. And then when we went for the Series B round, which was really not long ago, earlier this year, when we started the raise, that's when I think the whole prop tech market, was really slowing down. Like last year, the prop tech market took a huge hit and everybody, a lot of our competitors, different people in our space had a problem raising and everybody was raising more at a down round because they just needed the money because they had been burning so much cash. When we started our raise earlier this year, I think even some of the people around us didn't believe that we would be done with the raise as fast as we got done, basically, which took us, I would say, just over 60 days and just under 90 days to close on the deal. But what was interesting this time around was that we had a lot to show, but, I think we also had a lot of confidence at the same time. And the fact that we didn't have to change our idea or our strategy or our goals, like the main parts, still show that we can bring in more sales and have a plan to continue to keep scaling where we're going, made a lot of investors, I think, got them very interesting. And then we got over, I think at one point we had 6 or 7 term sheets at the same time, right? So that was an interesting time for us because we were preparing to maybe take a lot longer than we thought. But if you go back to 2018, us not thinking that we could get the right investors to 2024 is having a line of investors that we're obviously really thankful for and we're proud of as a team, but wanting to invest in the company and really seeing what we saw back then, and then obviously confirming and believing in what we've been doing, I would just say was definitely a proud moment. And we're extremely proud to have had, Mavericks Growth Equity out of Toronto, lead that round with many other investors that came on board. But I think I just have to say that raising is not easy. You obviously have to have the right group and the right team members involved in the raise. And then I think investors and anybody around, I don't think it's hard to tell who's in front of them because they're always in front of many different founders. And I think being able to really show the hard work that you put in your company always pays off. I can definitely say that.
Final question for you. Let's zoom out 3 to 5 years into the future. What's the big picture vision here?
Oh, man. So our vision as a company is to obviously never stop going hard and never stop innovating. So really what we want to continue to be is a true innovative company, but continue to remain obviously as cost effective as possible and have the best products with the number one client service in the industry and continue to keep thinking about 5 to 10 years from that time and how we will keep growing and becoming a leader in the space.
Amazing. Love the vision. I've really loved this conversation. We are up on time here, so we're going to wrap. Before we do, if there's any founders that are listening in that want to follow along with your journey, where should we send them?
I'm on LinkedIn. You can go to codelabs.com. I think those are the two great places to reach out.
Amazing. Well, thank you again for taking the time. It's been a lot of fun.
All right. Thanks, bud. Appreciate the time very much. Appreciate having me.
This episode of Category Visionaries is brought to you by Frontlines Media, Silicon Valley's leading podcast production studio. If you're a B2B founder looking for help launching and growing your own podcast, visit frontlines.io/podcast. And for the latest episode, search for Category Visionaries on your podcast platform of choice. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you on the next episode.